Hello, I'm Dr. Ruth K. Westheimer. Stay tuned for Becoming Dr. Ruth. Brilliantly performed by Tovah Feldshuh. All 4'7" of me. It's a commanding interpretation portraying my life's surprising journey. Beautifully written by the insightful playwright Mark Germain and directed by the fabulous Scott Schwartz.
Now captured live on stage, the critically acclaimed Becoming Dr. Ruth. Hey, that's me.
That's me.
No, that's me.
That's me.
Thunder, that's me. Time of the move is coming. Well, I'm a little behind. Pierre. No, these are things I must pack myself so that they are safe. Pierre, what did I tell you? No more television, no lectures, not now. And who is Nate Burgess? An interior decorator? Well, you tell Nate Burgess if he wants me to talk about interior decorating, he should seek professional help. No, Pierre. I move tomorrow. Pierre, my friend, it is 1997. We have worked together for 16 years. When have you ever known me to change my mind? You what? You've been talking with my children. Well, then I will tell you what I told them. Subject closed. Oh, my God. Hello. Pierre, I have company. Did you make an appointment for me that I didn't... This is Pierre Leroux. He is my Minister of Communications. He keeps my life in order. When the children can't find me, they call Pierre. Did you? No? Sure? Fine. Moment. All right. Pierre, hug Joanne for me. Yeah, bye-bye. God, my God. I'm so glad you're here. This is so much better than talking to myself. I've been talking to myself a great deal lately. So quiet. So please, stay. Don't leave. Not one of you. You can keep me company. We can visit while I pack. Yes. Oh, my mind. My mind is going in all directions. Well, Fred and I, we have lived in this apartment for 36 years. Who is Fred? Fred is the love of my life and husband number 3. Later, we'll talk. Just look at this view. How can you not love it? The Hudson River, the Palisades of New Jersey. You look to your left, there is the George Washington Bridge, and to your right, way upriver, is the Tappan Zee. And at night, these bridges, they light up like strings of stars. But moving is the right thing. Change is good. I can never seem to sit still anyway. There's a restlessness inside me. Oh, Freddie and I, we raised our 2 beautiful children here, Miriam and Joel. When they were little, they loved Fred's jokes. Where do you find a dog with no legs? I don't know, Papa. Wherever you left them. I don't get the joke. I understand funny, but not those jokes. Oh, look, can you see them? They're beautiful, yes? Am I exaggerating? Family. Family first. Oh. I am a pack rat, yes. Fred says that finding anything in this apartment will take an archaeological dig. But you know, if I covered all these piles with blankets, I could ski down them. Freddie and I, we met on the ski slopes. And skiers are very good lovers. Well, they don't sit on the couch, they take risks and they wiggle their behinds. Yeah. Good skiing, it's like good sex. Yeah. It's all about instinct and movement and taking risks. Water skiing? Water skiing. Water skiing is like a good orgasm. Better get that. Could be the mover. Hello? Yes, did Pierre call you? 3 o'clock? Great. What is your name? Mike. Mike, I am sure I am in good hands. What? Well, you can ask me anything you want. Now? I see. You don't want your mover friends to hear. Fine. Congratulations! When is the wedding? Are you and Jillian using contraception? Good. So, Mike, what can I help you with? Stop right there. There is no size for a normal penis. We do not size penises. Why do you think your penis is too small? Did your fiancé tell you? Well, I'm glad to hear that. The guys? What guy? Well, you should stop staring at each other so much in the gym and do more exercise. Mike, when you look down on it, your penis looks smaller. It is called foreshortening. Now listen to me. The next time you are aroused, I want you to stand in front of a long mirror and look at yourself. You will see what she sees. So love your penis, Mike, and tell Jillian to love her vagina. Are you bringing bubble wrap tomorrow? Good. Thank you. Bye-bye. Where to start? God, give me patience. And give it now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, this is very special. It's from Paris. Dan gave it to me. Husband number 2. No, later we'll talk. Music, it's very important to me. It is the thread that connects my memories. Oh, but no music during sex. You must concentrate on each other. Weißt du, wie voll Sternlein stehen am den blauen Himmelszeit? All right, don't worry, I'm not going to sing to you. It is not my German, Swiss, Hebrew, French, American accent. It is my voice. People leave the room, and quickly. By the time he was 4 years old, my son Joel, he asked me not to sing him happy birthday. But this is what this song means. Do you know how many little stars there are in the blue sky? Do you know how many clouds float above us far and wide? God who loves us, he can tell. God in heaven loves you well. My parents sang me to sleep with this lullaby. Then I was not Dr. Ruth. I was Carola Siegel when I was born June the 4th, 1928. I am an only child. We live in a 4-room apartment in Frankfurt, Germany, on the Bramstrasse. All the streets in our neighborhood are named after composers. My mom and my papa, they're very short, but from the day I'm born, they're worried that I am too small. So they bring me to doctors, they feed me as much as I will eat, and they force me to swallow 2 teaspoons of fish oil a day. Blech. As you can see, nothing worked. My mother used to put me in a laundry basket for safekeeping. You know, they say when you're moving, don't just pack, purge. Oh, here's my mother, Irma Hanauer, and look, she's smiling here. But I don't remember her smiling often, and I think this was the reason. My grandmother, Selma Siegel on my father's side. My mother came from a village farm to work in my grandparents' apartment as a household helper in Frankfurt. And it was there that she met my father, Julius. Now, Julius was not part of her job description. So when Mama got pregnant, they had to marry, and that was that. Grandmother Siegel was not happy. Well, my mother's parents, they were farmers. They had no higher education, and she felt that her son married beneath himself. There was only one thing that could keep Grandmama Siegel happy. Me. Since my mother was helping my father with his work, it was my grandmother who read and sang and played with me all day. She told me, always smile and be cheerful. Just remember, you are loved. But it was my father who had the greatest influence on me. Well, from him, I learned the importance of education. No one should ever stop learning. My father, inherited his father's business, wholesaling. Well, all kinds of notions. Handkerchiefs, buttons, every knick-knack you could think of. He would tie boxes to his bicycle, and then he'd ride from store to store. And our apartment, it was brimming over with his merchandise. So you can blame all this on him. We were Orthodox Jews, yeah? Very religious. And Jews are not allowed to touch money after sunset on the Sabbath. So every Friday evening, when we would walk to the synagogue, my papa put extra coins in his vest pocket so he could buy me an ice cream before the sun went down. Oh, I can still taste the vanilla. I sat with my father and all the men. They lived to love God, and to love God one must love learning. They would sit and talk and argue, and then we would sing. We sang even more when we gathered around the Shabbos table with Mama and Grandma. My father, he would rise up on his chair, and to my mother he would sing. Don't worry. A woman of valor, who can find? Her worth is far above rubies. Her husband praises her. Many women have done valiantly, but you surpass them all. Meaning you are the best. Now, I think these are the most sexually arousing words that a man can ever say to a woman. And on Shabbos, it is a double mitzvah. It's a double blessing for a husband and a wife to make love. Shabbos. Shabbos is a day for rest, eating, family, and terrific sex. Sex. There's a book. Yes, there's a copy of a book I learned from. Moment. Where's my step stool? Yoo-hoo. How do you bury a step stool? My parents. They kept a book on the top shelf of their closet in their bedroom that I saw my mother hide away. So then, of course, I had to see it. I piled books on top of a chair to reach. I literally risked my neck to learn the facts of life. Yes, the ideal marriage. It's physiology and technique. I am 10 years old. Oh, whoa. What are that man and woman doing? Now I know why Mama and Papa close their door at night. They're wrestling with no clothes on. There's a baby hiding in a bag. Someone found him, and now they're pulling him out by his head. No wonder he's crying. Someone opened the front door. Quickly, I replaced the book on the shelf. My parents never even noticed I had found it. They had many more important things to think about. You see, by the 1932 elections, the Nazis were the largest party in the Reichstag. And then in 1933, Adolf Hitler was named Chancellor. And he called the Jew the greatest enemy of mankind, the incarnation of evil. Jews were forced out of government service, universities. Jews were not permitted to marry persons of German blood. And then, on November the 9th, 1938, Kristallnacht. Night of broken glass. Jews were murdered. Our hospitals and schools, they were ransacked as people watched from behind their curtains. Our synagogue was burned to the ground along with many others. Our Torah was slashed to ribbons. 1 week later, I'm walking down the street, I'm holding my papa's hand. I'm looking at all the shops. The windows smashed. Swastikas are painted everywhere. When our neighbor, Mr. Goodman, stops us, he says, "Julius, we must get out now. Terrible things are about to happen." My father says, "Nothing's going to happen tomorrow. Tomorrow, it's a Catholic holiday." The next morning, the SS were pounding on our door. Big men with shiny boots. My mother, she started crying. My grandma, she took money out of the seam of her skirt, and she placed it in one of the men's hands, and she said, "Please, please, take care." Take care of my son. I ran to the window. I saw that Papa was brought to a truck. The truck is covered. I cannot see if there are others inside. But Papa, he must have felt me staring, because he turned, he saw me, and he smiled. Then he stepped into the truck. And he was gone. They sent him to a work camp. There were no concentration camps. Not yet. In July of 1938, there was a conference of all the Allied powers in Evian, France. 32 countries took part. The question, what to do with the Jews of Germany? Their answer? Almost nothing. Well, Netherlands, Switzerland, Belgium, France, they agreed to accept the delivery, as if we were packages. The delivery of Jewish children. 300 apiece. Only Britain. She was the only country who would accept more. And this was out of a population of over 500,000 German Jewish children. A few weeks after Kristallnacht, my mama gets a call from a Jewish agency saying that there's a place for me on the Kindertransport. After that phone call, it's the first time I see my grandma. She's hugging my mama. I had been chosen. I am selected to go to Switzerland. I am one of the 300. We all had to be German Jews under 16, either an orphan or with a father still in a camp. Had my father still been home, I would never have been on that train. And I would not be alive today. You see, my parents gave me life twice. Once when they gave birth to me, and once when they sent me to safety in Switzerland. My mom and my grandma, they take me to the Frankfurt am Main Hauptbahnhof. It is January the 5th, 1939, and I'm still 10 years old. I have one small suitcase, and it has my favorite dolly in it, Matilda. She has painted blonde hair, blue eyes, a pink dress with flowers on it, and on her back is stamped a tiny, tiny turtle. Mama lifts me up, she hugs me, she says, be good, study hard. It will be nice in Switzerland, and we will see you soon. My grandmother tells me, you will get so much chocolate. Always smile and be cheerful. You must trust in Almighty God. Then, I'm on the train. I look out my window as we pull away and I see Mama and even Grandma. They're running after it. They're waving goodbye. My Grandma, she's struggling. She looks so old running. I will not cry. I force myself to smile the way my father smiled for me, so that they will not feel bad. I am a Yeke. I am a German Jew. Yekes, do not cry. We keep our emotions here. Think of a duck gliding on the lake so peacefully, but under the water, the duck never stops paddling. I open my suitcase, and I see Matilda and the chocolate that my grandma packed for me. And one thing more, it's a washcloth that I took from our home in Frankfurt. But I don't know why. Maybe because it has my initials sewn into it. K.S. Carola Siegel. That's me. I wish I'd taken more, but I thought I would be home soon. The girl sitting next to me, her name is Marga. She's only 5 years old, and she's crying. I think she needs my dolly more than I do. Here. I give you Matilda. The washcloth? The washcloth I still have. When we moved in here, I packed it away where I would never see it again. Why should I look at it? It would only make me sad. Ah! There's one person that could make any sadness go away. Shirley Temple. Oh, she was a little princess with her dimples and her curls. And she could sing and she could dance. You know, I loved to dance too. And nobody ever complains unless I sing. Shirley Temple was taught to make everyone around her happy, and that's exactly what I was taught to do. We were sent to a home for Swiss children. It was called Westheimer. In English, place to wait. On our first night there, we slept on the second story of a barn. But I found an opening in the floor where the heat from the stove below came up, so of course I had to peek down. I saw the staff of Westheimer. They're opening our suitcases, and they're making fun of our clothes. They found the chocolate bar my grandma gave me. No, they're eating it. We thought they are here to take care of us. They thought we are here to be the servants to their Swiss children. Do their laundry, serve their food, clean their toilets. We are ordered to stay away from the Swiss children as if we would infect them. Maybe in one way this was a good thing. All of us from the transport, we had no one to turn to but each other. We became as close as brothers and sisters. We were happy. Maybe to the Swiss we seemed too happy. One night, one of the women in charge, a Fräulein Riesenfeld, called us into the parlor. Kinder, you must stop asking me every day if I have a letter for you. If I have it, you will get it. It is time to look at your situation clearly. We did not tell your parents we want your children. You were given away. Do you think if your parents truly loved you, they would have ever done such a thing? They are not like us. They are Schlangeneltern. They're snakes who eat their young. You should be grateful that they write you at all. Remember, you are here because of the charity of the Swiss people. Remember how lucky you are. How could we complain? We were lucky. We were alive. I'm on the ladder. Do you see me? I'm right there. I'm trying to look taller. And I'm smiling because for the first time in my life, I'm in love. His name is Walter, and he's a younger man. I'm 13, he's 12. There he is. He's up there in the window behind all the girls. Oh. Walter was intelligent, and he's so good looking. And he sang me the first American song I ever heard. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You never know, dear, how much I entschuldigt mir. Love you. Everybody, please don't take my sunshine away. One more time, please don't take my sunshine away. Bravo, bravo, bravo. Walter, he was so clever. He lived on the floor above me, and he came up with a way to send notes back and forth, and no one ever caught us. Walter? Oh. Dear Carola, baby. Did you know that a baby robin can eat 14 feet of worms a day? Your friend, Walter. It was so romantic. And having a boyfriend meant everything. We were so lonely. And I thought I was short and ugly and stupid and that no man would ever have any interest in me. But Walter did, and this made me happy in a way that I never felt before. There was a school at the home, and we had one teacher, Herr Ignaz Mandel, who had a humpback and played the violin. The female staff, they made fun of him, but not me. He wanted us to learn. He encouraged us to write, to keep diaries, to keep dates. Herr Mandel taught us that dates are very important. They are the anchors for our memories. We do not know who we are if we do not remember who we were. Moment. Yes. July 20th, 1941. God, where are you? Will I ever see my mama and papa again? I know that I must not lose hope, but it is not easy. What does it mean to be a Jew? If you do not think of us, I will not think of you, even on your holidays. July 29th. My romance with Walter is through forever. We do nothing but quarrel. I told him today to comb his hair straight back, but he insists on combing it sideways. That's it. It's over. Oh, this is a letter from my Aunt Ida, my mother's youngest sister. It's from Izbica, it's a labor camp outside of Lublin. August the 30th, 1941. Liebling Carola, I am always hungry. November 2nd, 1941. A woman came to the school today and talked about the Auschwitz concentration camp. December 8th, 1941. America is now in the war against Japan. Bread will probably be rationed and that's all I wrote. I wonder why. June 14th, 1943. From my window in Westheimer, I can see across Lake Constance into Germany. The Allied bombs are falling on Friedrichshafen harbor like shooting stars. I dream of America and of Shirley Temple. The wartime staff, they even play for us the most wonderful American dances and songs, which we do not understand. We sing Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy and wonder who Boogie Woogie is. One thing we were taught was Zionism. Palestine. When the war is over, and it will be, Palestine needs you. Together, we can build a homeland that will be safe. Safe for you and your children. Palestine is your country. Yours, Carola. Yours, Walter. Palestine needs you to come home. They promised if I went with them, I could go back to school again. I could be a teacher for the Jewish children. I'd always wanted to be a doctor. Yes, a pediatrician, but that was impossible now. I might as well have wanted to be Shirley Temple. My grandma always said that I should be a kindergarten teacher because I would fit so nicely in their chairs. And then the war was over. It was a Tuesday, May 8, 1945. We were still at the table, sitting there eating our dinner when we hear the phone ring, and we overhear Fräulein Riesenfeld say, "Wait, are you certain?" Then she is in the doorway with tears streaming down her face. "Kinder, I have the most incredible news. The war is over, and the Allies have won." Complete silence. There should have been shouting and cheers, but no. Each one of us, we were thinking about our parents. Were they still alive? What now? What will become of us? The Red Cross sent wartime lists of people who survived the concentration camps. But instead of posting them on the wall, Fräulein Riesenfeld insisted on gathering us together and reading them to us, name by name, as we held our breath. 2 weeks after the war ended, she finished. And there was not one name on the list that we recognized. She said, "Go back to work. But Walter, you come with me." I stood by the door and I listened. "Walter, there is a record of your parents being sent to Buchenwald. They are not among the survivors." Walter said nothing. He looked past Fräulein Riesenfeld, and then he began to laugh. He laughed harder and harder until Fräulein Riesenfeld slapped him across his face. Maybe she had to. I don't know. I don't care. I said, "Don't touch him!" I just got a letter from my father. My father, my mother, my grandmother, they're safe in Tel Aviv. My father got a job working on a farm, and we have a little house all to ourselves. Walter can come with me. Everyone can come with me. Carola, I never read that letter. Of course she didn't, because these were all lies. But they were lies that I needed to go on. Hello? Joelchen. It's Joel. How are you? Yeah? How's Barbara? Good. And my beautiful grandchildren? I have 4. Everything is terrific. Yes, I'm almost finished packing. Joel, we've talked about this before. I'm just moving a bit downtown. But I don't need more time to think. 2 weeks is enough time. I thought it, I feel it, I do it. Your mother is a wandering... All right, I know this was yours and Miriam's home too. But I cannot live here anymore. Do you understand? I have to get off. I have company. Yes, I love you too. Bye-bye. Oh, sometimes children, when they grow up, they forget that their parents are still adults. President Clinton, his arms around me, both arms. Well, he's Bill Clinton. I was at his inauguration. Why? Because I told him to run for president. My Miriam was national director of a terrific program for homeschooled youngsters. It was called Hippie. And in Arkansas in the 1980s, it was a great success. Hillary Clinton was on the board, and so was I. So when I flew down for a meeting, someone asked me, "Hey, Ruth, would you like to go see the governor?" I said, "Great!" We walked into his office, and immediately Governor Clinton stood right up and said, "Hi, Dr. Ruth." He knew me. We had the most wonderful conversation, and at the end, I said to him, "Governor Clinton, you should run for president, and I will vote for you." And let me tell you, Bill Clinton is not just a Rhodes Scholar, but he is so good looking. Am I wrong? But his greatest gift is that he knows how to look at a woman so that she feels she is the only person in the room, while at the same time he is looking at every other woman in the room. The rest is history. I must show you this one. Here I am with a beetle. We were at commencement at Yale. He was walking down the aisle and he recognized me. He said, "Hello, Ruth." I said, "Sing to me." He held my hand and he sang, "He loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah." I called Miriam. I said, "Miriam, I just met a beetle." She asked which one. I said, "I didn't know. I had no idea, but I knew there were 4, so he had to be one of them." And this, Around the World with Ruth and Fred. Oh, Italy, France, India, Japan, takeout menus. I don't know how to cook, so all our food adventures are delivered right to the front door. Oh, I have so many things. How am I going to keep them all? Now this is the target from when I took my grandson Ari to a county fair. He was very surprised when I shot 5 bullets right to this bullseye. He did not believe me when I told him I was a sniper in Palestine. You don't believe me either. No, I can tell. You better hope I don't have to prove it. Palestine. Felt like a dream. It was a new world, my 3rd, and I was only 17. Our kibbutz was called Ramat David. It was near the village of Nahalal. 200 people living together, growing oranges, raising cows, raising chickens. The minute we arrived, they asked us to change our German names to Hebrew. So, I took my middle name and I put it first. I was now Ruth K. Siegel. Ruth meaning companion, and I kept the K for Carola so that my parents could find me. It had been 4 years, 5 months, and 5 days since the last letter. Life there was hard. That I expected. What I did not expect was to feel the same way I felt in Switzerland, like a second-class citizen. There it was the Swiss Jews who looked down on us. Here it was the Polish Jews. They thought that we were not smart enough to leave Germany before the war started. I worked 8 hours a day, 2 in the kitchen, 2 cleaning toilets, 2 in the fields picking olives and grapes, and 2 doing whatever they asked me. I asked to work in the kindergarten, but they said no. They said I was such a terrific worker and that the most valuable person on the kibbutz was the one who could work anywhere. I tell you, I was a servant again. Dr. Who's Guide to Teens and Sex Today. Not an easy decision, deciding when to have sex for the first time. So many pressures from the movies, from your friends, from your own bodies. Well, if you have a pot of boiling water and you try to hold the top down, if you let go even for a second, that pot is going to burst off from the pressure. On the kibbutz, my top popped. I first had intercourse on May the 9th, 1946, on a starry night in a haystack without contraception. Okay. I'm not happy about that. But since then, I know better, as does everybody who listens to me on the radio. I remember that night so clearly. I remember how in love we were. And that first time was beautiful because of that. The kibbutz wanted families so that they would have more members. So if a guy and a gal were only seeing each other, they said, "Do you want a room?" And of course we wanted a room. It was much better than sleeping in tents. And this led to marriage and children. Not for me. I was not ready for either. Well, I'd been part of this group dream, and now I dreamed of doing something on my own. Then, a couple named the Goldbergs came to visit the kibbutz, and we started talking. And Mrs. Goldberg said, "Ruth, I could help you find a school where you could study to be a kindergarten teacher, but you would have to leave here. You'd have to go to Jerusalem." Jerusalem? I was living in a community of less than 200 people. Jerusalem had over 250,000. I had just turned 18. I had no money. I couldn't speak Hebrew. How could I leave? I said, "Mrs. Goldberg, I'll be packed in 20 minutes. Jerusalem. Jerusalem. It's more than just a city. It is the living past. On my first day, I borrowed a bicycle and I pedaled as close as I could to the Wailing Wall. All that is left of the Temple of Solomon, 2,000 years old. I got close enough to see the green of the little plants growing between the cracks in the wall. Even through the stones they grew. They are just like us. They are survivors. I not only got accepted at Seminar Eshkoli, the best training school for kindergarten teachers in Jerusalem, I also got a scholarship. But as I began my studies, the conflict between Arabs and Jews was growing, each of us wanting Palestine for our own. And then in 1947, the United Nations voted to partition the country into a Jewish state, an Arab state, and a small international zone. Good news? No. Immediately came the guerrilla wars between Arabs and Jews, not only by soldiers, but civilians too. I know. I was one of them. I joined the Haganah, the Jewish underground army. It was there that I learned to take machine guns apart and put them back together with my eyes closed. I learned how to teach children arts and crafts by day and throw a hand grenade at night. It was there that I learned to shoot. I am a very good sharp shooter. I was small, I was fast, so they used me as a messenger because there was less of me to shoot at. Nights, I stood on a roof with my rifle, protecting the Israeli soldiers at the entrance to the city as they stopped every car to check it. I had not been on surveillance more than 3 weeks when I walked home to the youth hostel where I was staying very late at night. No sooner did I get to the door of my bedroom than the siren sounded. They told us to rush downstairs. But on my way down, I said, wait a minute. I can get my homework. Who knows how long we will be down there? I ran back up to the lobby. No! The bomb shrapnel ripped into the walls of the building. Plaster fell from the floor. People were screaming, and the girl, she was standing right here. She was standing next to me. She fell to the floor, dead. Then a soldier, then another girl. Right there. I was thrown into a wall. When I tried to sit up, I saw someone. It was a girl. It's my friend, Hannah Laura. She was trying to unlace my shoe ties. I said, Hannah Laura, why are you doing that? Then I looked down at my feet and my legs. Oh my God. They are covered in blood. Hannah Laura, do I have to die? An ambulance rushes me to the hospital. It is June the 4th, 1948. It is my 20th birthday. There's shrapnel dug in all over my body. The biggest pieces are here in my neck. My ankles and my legs, they are cut. They are bleeding. And the top of my right foot is blown off. Our surgeon, Dr. Ailey, says I am lucky not to have lost both feet. He operates, and then they carry me downstairs to a big room that had once been the library for a cloister. Cots were filled with wounded soldiers. There was not one bed left, but I was so small, I could fit on a bookshelf. That's where they put me. Some of the soldiers were in bad shape. One had lost both his hands from a grenade, and another one had been blinded. But morale was high. We were all trying to help each other, and my morale was the highest because I was the only woman in a room packed with men. I'm telling you, I could have recuperated for years. It took me months to learn to walk again, but thanks to Dr. Ailey, I did. And then he gave me an even greater gift. It was thanks to Dr. Ailey that I met David. David was in the army station near Jerusalem. He was handsome, he was well educated, he wanted to be a doctor, and he was short. He climbed his camp fences to see me. He had this motor scooter, and we would ride it into the countryside to have our picnics. And I hung on to him tightly, even when I did not have to. And after 2 months, David said, Ruthie, I love you. Will you marry me? I thought to myself, how lucky I am that anyone is willing to marry me. And I wouldn't just be marrying David, I'd be marrying his whole family, his aunts, his uncles who loved me too. David's father, not so much. Well, he felt we were too young, and he did not want his son to marry an orphan, a refugee. He did not come to the wedding. He said he was away on business. As I walked down the aisle to the terrace where everyone had gathered for the marriage ceremony, I caught myself looking through the crowd for my father and my mother and my grandmother. Sometimes I still do. Yes! Dr. Ruth's board game of good sex. Have you played it? It's fabelhaft. You get these little plastic pawns and these sex clinic cards, and then you move around the board and collect arousal points. You played it, I can tell. Well, why not? It's fun and it's educational. Did you know that only 30% of women have an orgasm during sex? The Talmud says that a husband owes his wife sexual satisfaction. It even specifies a timetable for sexual union. For wealthy men, listen up, intercourse every day. For donkey drivers, once a week. Camel drivers, once a month. For sailors, once every 6 months. I told my daughter, don't ever marry a sailor. There were no medical schools in Israel for David, so we had to go abroad. Padam, padam, il arrive en courant derrière moi. Padam, Paris, the movies, the music, La Comédie Française and Edith Piaf. On our first day in Paris, we could not walk down the street without stopping every 10 steps to gaze up at the buildings and the beautiful women standing on the street corner, all smiling at us. I said, David, these women dress so beautifully. If I had clothes like they did, I would stand on the corner and show them off too. David said, they're prostitutes. Well, they're sophisticated prostitutes. Sophistication was something I had never known before, but now I was taking courses at the Sorbonne. I was the director of a Jewish kindergarten. My life was changing, and so fast. And so was David's. He decided he did not want to become a doctor. So, in 1954, we returned to Israel for the summer. And in the fall, I came back to Paris alone. David's father was right. We were too young, and I didn't really want a husband. I wanted a family. David wanted to stay in Israel. It was his home. I wanted to continue my education and find a home. I asked David for a divorce, and he agreed. Sometimes life is not as romantic as a song of Piaf's. Did you know there are more turtles in this apartment than the Bronx Zoo? I love turtles. Maybe because of the turtle mark on my doll Matilda's back. Well, turtles, they just have two choices. They can either hide in their shell and go nowhere, or they can stick their neck out and move forward. Turtles are yekkes, they're strong, and they do not cry. David and I, we are still friends. And he became the press secretary for the Israeli government. And we still see each other when I fly there or when he comes here. Fred really likes David. Whenever he sees him, he says, David, why didn't you keep her? David answers, I'm glad you took her. Maybe they get along too well. But don't you worry, Fred has a great love of his own, Diane Sawyer. You know, Fred never talks with reporters. That is my world, and he has his. Except for the time that Diane Sawyer came here to interview me for 60 minutes. Then I could not get rid of him. He sat right there on the couch next to me, and what is Diane Sawyer's first question? Mr. Westheimer, how is your sex life? Freddie doesn't blink. He looks right into the camera at millions of people watching him, and he says, Diane, the shoemaker's children don't get any shoes. Did I throw it out? Oh my God. Yeah. Hello? Oh, Miriam, how are you? The children? Good. And you're Joel? Miriam's husband is a Joel also, 6'2" and a terrific hugger. Yes, I'm making progress. You would not believe how much progress. Miriam, I already spoke with Joel. Liebling, stop it. Change is good. Look at me. All my life I have moved country to country. Running away? How can you say this to me? I have never run away from anything in my life. I run toward. I know what you and Joel want, but this is not your decision. This is mine, and it is made. Miriam, you are not the one living alone here, so I don't want to discuss it. I call you back. Fred died 2 months ago in 6 days. April the 3rd, 1997. I had just come home from an Academy Awards party, and my Freddie, he was sitting on the bed, but he could not get up. He said, "Ruthie, I think I have had a stroke." I called the ambulance, I called Miriam, I called Joel, but once we got Fred to the hospital, he would never again open his eyes. There was nothing that I could do. Some things are not easy to talk about, even for Dr. Ruth. Hello? Oh, Mike. You are most welcome. I've helped many men with their penises. Yes, of course. Of course she can call. Give her my number. And I see you tomorrow. Oh, Mike, bring strong friends. Bye-bye. Mike's grandmother wants to call. This is good. But people do not look at the elderly as sexual beings. And what is worse, some older people do not see themselves that way. Do you know the most important sexual organ? The brain. The libido, which causes us to be aroused, is housed in the brain. And it can function properly until you are in your 90s. And I keep raising that number every year. Did you know that from the window of my new apartment, I can see the Statue of Liberty? I saw it for the first time on September the 9th, 1956, from the deck of La Liberté. Dan and I, husband number 2, we sailed from Paris to New York Harbor. Well, the German government had sent me a check for 5,000 marks. That's almost 1,500 American dollars. It was meant for German Jews who were denied their schooling because of the Nazis. Now, I never sought out restitution from the Germans, but here was money staring me in the face, and I knew what to do with it. I said, Dan, let's go to the United States. I'll buy you a suit. Dan was a snappy dresser. He loved clothes, and he was very good looking. We met at La Petite Suisse. It was a coffee bar in Paris after my divorce from David. Dan was a French Jew. And we began this fabulous love affair. We bought 4th-class tickets for the bottom of the ship. They told us we had to stay down there the entire trip, that the deck was only meant for the first-class passengers. But as we neared New York, we snuck up the fire exit stairs to the deck, stayed up all night, waiting for daylight and America. I don't even remember getting off the ship, just gazing up at all the buildings, so many and so tall. They made me feel even smaller. There were ice cream carts. There are ice cream carts on every corner. I'm staring at every face. I'm sure that I will see Shirley Temple. The first thing I do is I pick up a copy of the German Jewish newspaper, the Aufbau. We needed a cheap room to rent, and in it, I find this big advertisement from the New School of Social Research announcing a scholarship for a victim of the Nazis. I say, I am going down there to apply. Now, today, and when we find a room for $7 a week in Washington Heights, I call the new school, I leave my new address, and they say that I won that scholarship. I won it. Oh, we'd only been in New York for 2 weeks. I am asking you, where else could this happen? But in the United States of America. At 28, I had to master my 4th language. Well, all the courses at the new school were, of course, taught in English. But I didn't have the time or the money to buy English classes. and I could not understand difficult books. So I bought True Confessions and I read them cover to cover. Mate or wait? They said I was man hungry. Please, take my devil child. Now I will take care of you, you dirty man snatcher. She pulls my hair, rips off my dress, and laughs hysterically. Ha ha, ha ha, ha ha. This was my Dickens and Shakespeare. I was passing my courses, but I did not like experimental psychology. Well, rats running around mazes are not as interesting as what runs around inside people's heads. So I switched my major to sociology, especially that of the family, just as I found out I was having a child of my own. Oh, this was joy. Dan and I got married, and I threw up every morning for 3 months with a smile on my face. When it came time, we had no money for a private hospital, so we went to the Bronx Municipal Hospital, and there the American nurse must have been the first cousin of Fräulein Riesenfeld. 17 hours. You're still not ready? You're gonna need a cesarean. What does that mean? It means that 9 months ago you had your fun, but tonight, kiddo, boy. Are you gonna pay for it? This beautiful child, this miracle, this first time ever any woman gave birth. Miriam, our daughter. A neighbor loaned us the most beautiful French baby carriage. It was almost as tall as I was, but never mind. I pushed Miriam to see every friend I ever had, and I knew what they were thinking. How could she squeeze a child out of that teeny body of hers? How do you spell cesarean? As I pushed Miriam home, we stopped before the Ohav Shalom synagogue, and we went in.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon.
I took my child, I lifted her up and brought her to me, and I felt like I was hugging my entire family who came before me, and all those yet to come. Later, I joined that synagogue. Today, I belong to 2, so that if one asks me, where were you last week, I can say, I was at the other. Dan was a kind man, a simple man, and he was very, very good to Miriam. But between the 2 of us, marriage can withstand a lot of pressures, but one thing it cannot bear is boredom. Physical stimulation is wonderful, but without mental stimulation, you can sleep through it. By the time Miriam was 1 year old, Dan and I decided to divorce. We realized that what we had was a fabulous love affair, but nothing more. Nothing that could last a lifetime. It's a shame. Dan was debonair, snappy dresser, and my rent was $55 a month. Miriam and I, we survived on egg sandwiches. I had 3 blouses. I had 1 black corduroy suit, which I would wash and brush and wear every day until it fell apart. Being a single mother was not easy. I figured if I kept myself busy, I wouldn't think about it. So I took turns babysitting with the neighbors, hoping to find work and get back to school. And then I got a job doing market research for $1 an hour. I called people on the telephone to ask their opinions. Now, I never owned a telephone in Jerusalem or Paris, so I thought that nobody could hear me unless I shouted. Hello! I'm calling from Harris Research. May I please ask your opinion about towels? Do you like the color blue, red, or yellow the best? No, I'm not angry. There's no wrong answer, just pick one. Every night after work, when I would walk home, I had a new American dream. Someday, I would be so successful that I would own a Frigidaire. And I would have a maid 1 day a week. And in 1959, when I was awarded my master's degree from the New School of Social Research, I promised my Miriam that nothing would stop me from becoming a doctor. I went on for my doctorate of education. I had my thesis approved, Orphans of the Holocaust, and then I took my orals. My professor, Eric Grohl, he welcomed me. Come in, Ruth, and please, call me Eric. Ruth, we would like you to talk about your very puzzling paper where you disagreed with the thrust of my book, Hitler's Rise and America's Disgrace. But I agreed with many points, Professor. Eric, of course, Eric. Yes, America should have joined the war earlier, and yes, she should have taken in Jewish children. You are Jewish, are you not? Yes, then you should know better than anyone that America did nothing. Their response was inexcusably late, and your forgiving that response is even more inexcusable. Yes, Eric, their response was late, but America helped defeat Hitler. America took me in. Without the United States of America, how do you think I'd ever be standing here before you today? He failed me. I took the exam again, and I was failed again. I am telling you that I have never in my life been so humiliated. I would never be a doctor. What ever made me think I would be? I would stay a single mother who would spend her whole life talking about towels. You know what these are? These are Stay-Auf-Menschen dolls. You knock it down, and it bounces right back up again. Well, that is what I do. When I am knocked down, I bounce right back up. I say done, and I move on. What other choice do we have? My Freddie bought this for me. When I saw it in a shop, let me tell you about Fred. We met on January the 3rd, 1961 at the Bel Air Resort in the Catskills. Skiing, that's right. You remember? Fabulous, fabulous. Bravo, bravo, chapeau. No Alzheimer's for you. My friend Hans drove me up to this ski resort. He was a member of a ski club. Do you know what a T-bar is? It's a long piece of metal that drags two people up a mountain. Now, this can be a problem when one person is 4'7" and the other one is more than 6 feet tall. When the bar was behind Hans's tush, it was slamming into my neck. And when it was behind my tush, Hansi was stretched out like a corpse in rigor mortis. It was a long ride. When we got to the top of the mountain, Hans introduced me to the club's president. He had dark hair, glasses, a big smile, and he was short. I said, Hans, on my next trip up this mountain, I'm going to go with this short guy. And so I did. We started talking when we got on the lift, and we talked all that day and that night until 2 a.m. When I got home, I called my friend Debbie. I said, Debbie, I have just met the man that I am going to marry. His name is Manfred Westheimer. Fred tells people this was the biggest ski accident he has ever had. Well, Fred is sensible, and I am impulsive. I like to spend, he likes to save. He calls it thrifty. I like to go out. He likes to stay in and watch The Odd Couple. Fred is Jewish. His family escaped Hitler by going to Portugal, but now we were both here, and Fred was handsome and interesting and employed. He was a chief engineer, and he loved children, and he played Jewish folk songs on his guitar and harmonica. What could be better? Well, it would be better if he didn't have two girlfriends. Yeah, two, and they were real competition. 1 gave long back rubs, and 2 made great herring salad. Herring salad. I needed to impress Fred with my cooking, but I could not even boil water. So now it is time for what I would later call a Westheimer maneuver. I called my dear friend Kate Bauman, and I asked her to cook the most fantastic Rosh Hashanah dinner, and then I told my guests to pretend it was mine and to praise my cooking in front of Fred, and they did. Then, after dinner, I see one friend whisper to another in Hebrew that Kate made a great meal. I tell you, the Israelis, they got this habit of whispering to one another in Hebrew and thinking no one else can understand them. Fred helped me clear the dishes, and in the kitchen he said, everything was delicious. I only wish I spoke better Hebrew so I could thank Kate myself. You never let me forget that one. Still, Freddie, you faced the inevitable the day you took Miriam and me out driving in your Renault. Miriam suddenly asked, if you two get married, will this be my car too? Fred almost drove into a ditch. I said, Miriam, Fred is not interested in marriage. We will get our own car. Frieda Hirsch's son? Yes, Peter. Yes, the handsome one. He sells sports cars, and he keeps asking me to come around. He said that he could give me a deal that would make my head spin. The next weekend, when Fred and I were hiking in the Catskills, he said, Ruthie, I think we should get married. I said, whatever you want, Freddie. There was one condition, however. We had to marry before the end of the year for tax purposes. So on December the 10th, 1961, at the Windermere Hotel on the Upper West Side, Fred and I were married. Met and married in less than a year. This was my greatest Westheimer maneuver. Fred and I both wanted a second child. So 6 months after the wedding, I was pregnant. And on March the 14th, 1963, our son Joel was born at Columbia Presbyterian Hospital, private room. Never mind. I raised him the same way I raised Miriam. Idealism and Israel, these were very important. Both went to kibbutz summer camps. No spoiled kids, no pony rides. And once they were in school, I got a part-time job at Planned Parenthood. I was hired to supervise a survey of the contraception and abortion history of over 2,000 women in Harlem. My job was to train the women collecting the data how to interview a subject, how to fill out a questionnaire. I often came with them, but not to supervise, just to sit and learn. I sat quietly. Yes, quietly. And I learned about the choices that they made, but mostly the choices they did not make. Have you seen my doll houses? A friend made this one for me. Can you see the little family? The father, the mother, the grandpa, the children at the piano, and in the nursery, there's a baby, and there's these little miniature baby toys. And the furniture, the furniture looks so real. All of it handcrafted between World War I and World War II. You see, I had to give up my first dollhouse when I was forced to leave Frankfurt and go to Westheimer. So now I have 6. I collect them, I decorate them, but I don't let my grandchildren play with them. The little furniture, the little families, they stay exactly where I put them, and they never leave. They are as happy as I want them to be. In the first 10 years of my life, I had a family. I had a family that loved me. This was very important. It is because of their love that I was able to survive being an orphan. With my dollhouses, I can reclaim the control over my life that was ripped away from me when I was forced to leave Frankfurt. And I wanted to give the women of Harlem that same control over their lives. It was at Planned Parenthood that I realized I wanted to teach sex education. To me, sex is the most important pillar of the human relationship. It's why we are here. It's so basic to who we are. And I knew I had to learn more, so I decided to have courage. I registered for one course at the Columbia Teachers College. I did not register for more because I was so afraid to fail again. Well, guess what? I got an A. And that was all I needed. I went full speed ahead. And in June of 1970, I was awarded my doctorate of education. Me, a doctor, Dean's List. Hallelujah! Hallelujah! I marched in the front of the procession in my cap and gown, and I waved to the children. I never wanted to take that gown off. I only wish my papa were here to see me. That summer, I became an instructor at the Lehman College in the Bronx, and I loved to teach. I still do. I will never give it up. Lehman, Princeton, Yale, I learn from my students as they learn from me. I did, however, set up some rules for myself. The first thing is, I would never ask personal questions. Well, I think a person's sexuality is a private matter unless they want to bring it up themselves. Now, I decided this when I heard a medical doctor at a seminar say, I'm going to reveal to you something I've never told anyone before, not even my wife. I get very aroused with a strong erection whenever I see a cow. No one said a word. Everyone is polite. But the next day when he was walking into his office, I know what everyone was thinking. Moo! Do you know Dr. Helen Singer Kaplan? She built on the work of Masters and Johnson to write the new sex therapy. This was the Bible for all sex therapists. I went to hear her speak. Oh, she was so smart. And when she asked for questions, I wanted so badly to come up with one, but I was the only person in the whole auditorium who was not a medical doctor. Dr. Kaplan, I agree that men who have premature ejaculation problems do not have these problems because they dislike women. Do you think then that instead of analysis, they could be helped by education? She did. She even said, good question. Afterwards, I rushed up to her. I said, Dr. Kaplan, I have admired your work for so many years. Could I possibly attend your sex therapist training clinic at Cornell? She said yes. This was on a Wednesday. I was there Thursday. Once a week, we would all sit behind a two-way mirror and observe Dr. Kaplan conduct sex therapy. She and her patient talked about the most intimate matters in great detail. And they were very calm, they were very relaxed. Me, I was as red as a tomato. Well, I'm very old-fashioned. I'm a big square, but never mind. I took every course, and it was from my studies that I decided what I really needed to do was to become a sex therapist. Now, if a psychiatrist once said to me that this made perfect sense, that once I was torn from the hugs I had at home, I was never touched. Never touched until I met Walter. And the touching, kissing, expressing myself sexually was so important because it brought back the intimacy, it brought back the family that I had now lost. He said that studying with Dr. Kaplan was the next logical step because I understood from here, all of me, I understood how important this is for all of us. There are two conditions, however, that I will not treat. Sadomasochism, because the therapist has to visualize, and I do not want to. And bestiality. I am not a veterinarian. One day, a call came to the Institute, and our supervisor told us that the community affairs managers of all the radio stations in New York were seeking a speaker to address them on the need for sex education, 5 hands shot up for no fee, 4 hands shot down, except mine. I learned long ago, always take the yes. The meeting was to take place in the ballroom of the St. Moritz Hotel. As I stepped into the elevator, I said to myself, Ruthie, why aren't you nervous? You have one shot to make a difference to a room full of prominent people who could change the course of sex education in America. How can you not be frightened? But I wasn't. Maybe because all these men were wearing jackets and ties and not armbands. Thank you for inviting me here. Tonight, I'm going to share with you some key words that you do not normally hear on the radio. Words like contraception, unwanted pregnancies, venereal disease, and the most important word, education. So many young people and adults are not educated on the facts and the responsibilities of their sexual conduct. To many people, they leave their sexual education to their significant others. That is the sociological term for a person who can affect change in another person's life. Now, parents and teachers, even if they do help, they're not enough. But you broadcasters, you are significant others. You should have programs on the air to educate your listeners about these issues. The philosopher Hannah Arendt once said that education is the point at which we decide that we love the world enough to assume responsibility for it. Gentlemen, it is up to us, all of us, together. Let us take responsibility. Can I answer any questions? Hands shot up that I expected, but not what happened next.
WYNY. Stay tuned for the premiere of WYNY's call-in show, Sexually Speaking, with Dr. Ruth K. Westheimer. Listeners can call in at 212-873-7888.
Hello, this is Dr. Ruth K. Westheimer.
Doctor, the button. The white button.
Hello, this is Dr. Ruth K. Westheimer, and you are listening to Sexually Speaking. I am not a medical doctor, and I do not do therapy on the air. I am here to educate. So if you have any questions for me regarding sexual matters, you can reach me at 212-873-7888.
Call on line 1.
Hello, you're on the air.
Dr. Westheimer, our daughter walked in on my husband and me while we were having sex on our living room floor.
How old is your daughter?
5. She was afraid and started crying, but my husband just crawled behind the couch. She still won't talk about it. Neither will my husband. What should I do?
I am so glad you asked this question because this happens to many parents of young children. The first thing is, making love on the floors and tables in any room in the house is fabulous, as long as the doors have locks. Next, take your daughter aside and say, honey, the other day when you walked in on us, Daddy was not hurting Mommy. Daddy and Mommy were making love. Use that term, making love. And it felt good. So if you heard moaning and groaning, it is only because it feels good. And tell your husband to get out from behind the couch.
I will. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Doctor, the board is lighting up.
Our show was broadcast at midnight and only went on for 15 minutes. But by the third show, I was given the name I'm best known for. Hello, you're on the air.
Dr. Dr. Ruth.
Yes, I'm Dr. Ruth.
I'd like your advice. I'm 21 and I've been seeing an older man for almost 2 years now.
How much older?
He's 37.
Go on.
We have a really good relationship except for one thing. He won't see me on the weekends.
Does this man work on the weekends?
No.
Does he take care of his parents? Is he a volunteer?
He isn't.
He is married, yes, and he is with his family?
Yes, doctor.
Then here is my advice. I tell you what Nellie Forbush sang to us from the shower. Just wash that man right out of your hair. When one person only takes and another one only gives, this is not a relationship. This is using. Tell him Dr. Ruth says enough.
I will.
And write me and tell me you've left him.
Thank you, doctor.
Bye-bye. Our show was extended to an hour. I was delighted. Well, after all, I'm a teacher. This was just like having a bigger classroom. Was I surprised? Well, more and more each day. Mail trickled in slowly at first, but then in bags bigger than me. Then WYNY decided to have T-shirts printed up that said Sex on Sunday. We had over 3,000 requests. It is good to be Dr. Ruth. Hello, you're on the air.
Dr. Ruth, I've been going out with a guy for almost a year, and I like him a lot. The only thing I don't like is that he wants me to have oral sex with him. I just can't do it. The worst thing is that he loves to give me oral sex, and I love it. I feel so selfish. What should I do?
Whipped cream or chocolate sauce. Whichever is your favorite, rub it on his penis. See if you like it then. If you still feel the same way, stop with the oral sex, but get some ice cream for your whipped cream and chocolate sauce. I felt something was happening, and so did my Joel, who had just started his freshman year at Princeton University. One night he was walking down the campus and he heard his mother's voice coming out of every dormitory window. Miriam didn't know what was going on because she had been in Israel working on a kibbutz. So when she came home, she assumed that I was working for a community access station. Then I invited her to see Torch Song Trilogy, the biggest hit on Broadway, and afterwards I told her we would be meeting the cast for drinks. Miriam thought I was kidding. Then Harvey Fierstein in the lobby called and said, "Ruth, Bubba." Then one morning, I dropped coins in a blind man's cup. I said, "Here you are, bye-bye." He said, "Thank you, Dr. Ruth." That's when I knew I was right. Our show started broadcasting nationally and in Canada. Hello, you're on the air.
Doctor, when my wife and I make love, I keep my pajamas on and just unbutton my fly. My wife doesn't like it. She says I have to take everything off.
Why don't you?
Well, I guess I feel silly with no clothes on.
Try this. Take your pajamas off. Be naked, but you can wear a necktie.
Where should I tie it?
Let your wife decide, but don't tie it too tight. We have time for one more. Last call. You're on the air.
Dr. Ruth, I am very upset. I went into the living room last night and found my husband in front of the TV masturbating to the Wild Kingdom.
And we're out of time. So good night, everyone, and have good sex.
You've got New York, WYNY.
Articles began to appear in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the London Times. A journalist wrote that my warm giggle sounded like a gerbil in heat. Why did they listen? I think it is this. People really need to talk about sex. And suddenly here was this minute middle-aged woman who did. I was non-threatening and my accent helped. They thought I sounded like Sigmund Freud. And I made them laugh. A lesson taught with humor is a lesson remembered. I went from being a professor to becoming a celebrity overnight. I was famous. And I loved it. I mean, who wouldn't? And at 50 years old, I was no starlet with only 15 minutes of fame. I was invited to appear on Johnny Carson, David Letterman. I told David about this young man who called me on the radio to say that before having sex, his girlfriend loved to toss onion rings on his erect penis. David pretended to be speechless and he walked off stage. Now, I've done David's show many times, but before all my commercial breaks, they always show a picture of a plate of onion rings. Then one day, a woman named Mickey Dwyer called me to discuss doing my own television show for the Lifetime Cable Network.
Welcome to Good Sex with Dr. Ruth Westheimer.
I did over 500 shows with my producer, John Lawless. And the guests that we had, Elaine Boozler came on the show and she said that her mother told her sex is a natural thing, just like having a heart attack. Joan Rivers came on the show and she said she had her greatest orgasms walking into Saks Fifth Avenue and saying, "Charge it." Then George Burns called me and he said, Ruthie, help me. Having sex at 90 is like trying to shoot pool with a rope. And why is a nice girl like you, what are you doing in a business like sex? You I will tell. In the Jewish tradition, sex has never been shameful. It is a celebration of love. There is this phrase in Hebrew, tikkun olam. It means to heal the world. Now, I never thought it would be through sex therapy, but this is my way. And it is my obligation. Because you see, I survived. And 1,500,000 children did not. Moment. Hello? Who? Ah, yes. It's Mike's grandmother. Elena, hello. Tell me, how can I help you? What? Well, I was born in Wiesenfeld, but I was raised in Frankfurt. On Händelstraße, that's only 5 blocks from me. Well, I'm a year older. Elena, did your family escape before the... But that's exactly what happened to my family. They were transported to the Lodz ghetto before they were sent to the camp. Elena, did you know them? But we were not Westheimers. We were Siegels. My father is Julius. My mother is Irma. My grandmother is Selma. Did you ever... Are you sure? But you must have seen them in Lodz or in Auschwitz. But if I showed you pictures, might you recognize them? Then I will bring them to you. Yes, that's good. I will speak with your grandson tomorrow. Oh, Elena, danke schön. Herzlichen Dank. God bless you. A survivor. She might know more. All I know is that my father was sent home for a very short time from that work camp before all the Jews of Frankfurt were transported to the Lodz ghetto in 1940. From there, thousands upon thousands of Jews, they were put on trains that went straight to the death camps. More of us died in those death camps than all Americans and British died in the war. I know that Auschwitz I was opened in May of 1940, and besides its gas chamber and its crematorium, it had Block 11, and that is where the torture and the interrogations took place. I know that Auschwitz II was opened in October of 1941 expressly for the final solution. So it had 8 gas chambers, it had 4 crematoria. I know that Auschwitz III was a complex of many camps to work the prisoners to death. Those put to work in factories lived no more than 4 months. Prisoners working in nearby mines lived no more than 1. I know that the gassing of the Jewish people began in January of 1942. I know that the death marches began January 27th, 1945, when 58,000 of us were marched west to the Polish-German border, and the SS guards and the Hitler Youth were ordered to shoot any prisoner who walked too slowly. I know that the Soviets liberated Auschwitz on January the 27th, 1945, where they found over 7,000 prisoners, either wounded, sick, or dying. I know that my father and my mother and my grandmother were not among them. I know that the last letter I received from my beloved family was on September the 12th, 1941. Did they live 4 more years? I don't know. I have no dates. How can they be dead without dates? The records only show for my papa ermordet, murdered, and for my mother, Verschollen, disappeared. Sometimes I dream that they are still alive. I dream it. And that they found me in Jerusalem. And that they came here. They came to America. They came to this apartment, to this room. And that my mother and my father, they met Fred. And they met their grandchildren. I dream of us all together. My papa, my mama, my grandma Selma and Fred, Miriam and Joel, all of us here sitting on this couch, sitting in this chair, sharing our memories, sharing our lives, vibrant, here, not in Germany. Not in Israel, not in Paris, but here. And then my papa says to my mama, Mama, look, don't you see, our Carola is a doctor. Here, inside these walls, inside this home, inside my home, they are here. Now it is only I who am leaving. Pierre, can you ask the movers to come earlier tomorrow? As early as they can? I need their help. I need their help to unpack. Right, unpack. I'm not leaving. Call the realtors and tell them, I don't know what you should say. You are my Minister of Communications. and Pierre, call that decorator. Call Nate Burkes. Tell him I will do his television show if he will help me reorganize this apartment. Tell him there's a little clutter. and tell him he can't charge me. Another Westheimer maneuver. Thank you, Pierre. Thank you, my friend, my pal. Thank you. This is the washcloth that I took from our home in Frankfurt, with my initials so carefully and so lovingly, sewn in by my mother. K.S. Carola Siegel. Carola Ruth Siegel. This is me. And these are my grandchildren. This is Ari, Leora, Michal, and Ben. When I look at my grandchildren, I know Hitler lost, and I won.